Well, this old house behind me here has seen a lot of history, but nothing quite like today. You know, they say that Richard Nixon, in his final days in office, was wandering the halls of the White House, talking to the portraits and maybe even the ghosts of former presidents. And you had to wonder that if, in fact, the house is haunted, what the spirits of those former presidents, many of whom were slave owners themselves, would have made of what happened there today. Barack Obama crossing the threshold of the White House, walking into the Oval Office, preparing for the transition of power. It was an extraordinary day. The president-elect of the United States began his day as just dad, dropping off his daughters at school, how their lives will change. Today, as Barack Obama flew on a chartered American Airlines jet from Chicago to Washington, that change began in earnest. Arriving in the nation's capital, he was the president-elect in shades, the Obama cool on display, a sign of the low-key way he played his first visit to Washington after his election. But how could anyone be cool about this? At the south entrance to the White House, the president and the first lady greeted the next president and first lady. A formal tableau for the cameras, but it seemed cordial. You could see the power shifting, though. Look at Obama putting his arm on Bush's back, letting the president go first. And then a few minutes later, more history. The 43rd and soon-to-be 44th presidents, the Texas rancher and the Illinois lawyer, bound forever now by the unique trust the American people have reposed in them. They didn't seem tense, but they didn't seem warm either. And as they headed into the Oval Office, look how Bush guides in Obama here. This was Barack Obama's 7th visit to the White House, but his first one to the Oval Office. Just the two of them in there, and some recent history.
I don't blame Senator McCain for all of President Bush's mistakes. After all, John McCain only voted with George Bush 90% of the time.
Obama's entire campaign amounted to an assault on the Bush presidency, a promise of a new direction, and the election was a repudiation of Bush. That's what change meant.
We can't afford 4 more years like the last 8.
Today, in front of the cameras, and aides said in the Oval Office as well, it was all business. The battered economy, especially the auto industry, and the troubled world situation were the topics. President Bush is clearly determined to work out a smooth transition for his successor, especially because this is the first wartime transition in 40 years, as he noted last week.
We're in a struggle against violent extremists, determined to attack us. And they would like nothing more than to exploit this period of change to harm the American people.
For the Obama family, there's a transition too. And today, the First Lady took Michelle Obama on a tour of her family's new home. It's an extraordinary moment. The Obama family will move into a house built by slaves. So the president-elect jetted back to Chicago after this brief but compelling trip. His grand new home and his daunting new job awaited. The White House released a statement on today's meeting, as did the Obama team. Both were brief and to the point. They said it went well, and given the scale of the problems the country faces, that is certainly a good sign.